Why am I recapping a movie that came out 18 years ago? Well, it's Halloween or nearabouts, and I wanted to celebrate a classic horror movie that on the surface might appear to be just another zombie film, this time using the filming gimmick of found footage. But this movie REC hits different, as when it unravels its secrets, and you learn this is not a zombie movie, but something a little more interesting that spices up the genre, that's when you realise you chose a great movie to watch. Now, what I didn't realise is that they've carried the concept of this story across 4 movies. And I found this out when you guys told me of a 4th movie that takes place out at sea, way back on my 28 days versus weeks video. How cool would it be to see a close quarters fight for survival on a cargo ship? There's nowhere to run, you've only got a few people on board, and filming a zombie genre movie out at sea is something which I don't think has happened before. How on earth does a film about an infectious outbreak go from mostly being contained in one building to being out at sea? Well, at long last, many years later, I'm here to unpack this series of REC films, to see where the story goes, and discuss with you guys if it was worth venturing there. Alright then, let's get on with it. We begin with REC. Our protagonist is Angela, and no, I'm not going to use the proper Spanish pronunciation because I am an uncultured swine. She's here with her film crew, making a documentary about the lives of firefighters, and their interactions feel very natural and unrehearsed, as they should do in found footage films.
Sí, pase. ¿Dónde vas? ¿Dónde vas? Mujer, que no te dé vergüenza.
Just like real conversations, they occasionally talk over each other, and there's some awkward glances here and there. No one comes across like an actor trying to take the spotlight, and this may be due to the director's choice, both of the director's choices, cast in lesser known actors. A decision that also helps with the immersion, just like it did for 28 Days Later. So for a not Spanish guy like me, I found it very easy to be immersed in their world. Angela's hoping for some drama to kick off, as that would make her documentary more interesting. Yeah, careful what you wish for. The first night goes by with no callouts, which allows Angela to get familiar with the guys. But the next evening the alarms ring and the guys jump into action. Angela now has this beaming smile, knowing things are about to get spicy. I like that even when they get to the house, it's not immediately clear to anyone what the issue is.
Más grave de lo que parece, ¿no?
Bueno, ahora nos lo vamos a encontrar, ¿no?
Bueno, entramos.
Hola, buenas noches.
The police are here too, and they tell the fire crew there's a door bolted shut, and the lady who lives there was heard screaming. When they enter the apartment, she's unresponsive, just standing there seeming kind of lost, and covered in blood. But it doesn't take her long before she latches onto the policeman, taking a chunk out of his neck. It's absolute chaos, and no one has any idea what they're getting into. They rush the man downstairs to get some help, but the health authorities, which I guess is their version of the CDC, have bolted the exit door shut, and they aren't yet revealing why, only giving them the instructions that they must remain in the building. We're not going to spend too long focusing on the who's who in this building, choosing instead to focus more on the plot. Even the IMDb listing shows that a good chunk of these characters don't actually have names. As you can imagine, most of these don't end up sticking around too long, so it's best not to get familiar. They theorise on the viable exits from the building, and this lady is especially desperate for them to open the doors, as her daughter is sick and needs medication. As you might expect, this will come up again later, but right now we got someone coming down. They realise there's more drama to attend to upstairs. The woman who bit the officer has bit one more, and they realise now that she's a rabid dog who needs to be put down. The outside authorities inform the ones inside that a guy in a hazmat suit is going to come in and assess their situation, as this is their procedure during a serious biological threat. I like how open the authorities are being with them, as I feel like it's a trope in horror movies, where they deliberately keep information from the characters, and more importantly keep it from you, just to retain the element of mystery. But in REC, everyone involved is being genuine. No one quite knows what the situation is, and the authorities are doing all they can to keep everyone calm and to keep them safe.
¿Qué significa NBQ? ¿Qué es?
Ese es el procedimiento que se utiliza frente a amenazas de tipo nuclear, biológico.
But yeah, now it's established that whatever this thing is that's turning people rabid is likely due to be infectious. Angela still determined to get a documentary out of this. And well, yeah, you would, wouldn't you? Interviews the residents, and she finds out that not only is this young girl Jennifer sick, but her dog is too. And right now, he's at the vet's. After doing a roll call to account for everyone in the building, they discuss the penthouse on the top floor, which has been rented out for a very long time, but the guy is rarely ever around. Therefore, to everyone here, he's kind of a mystery. The hazmat guy insists that the infected people are handcuffed to their beds, and the others soon realise why.
¿Qué pasa, Pablo?
Joder.
After explaining that the infection is spread through saliva, he feels safe taking off his mask, as currently he's around people who haven't been bit. Yeah, personally, I don't think I'd take the chance. He then reveals that a dog at a nearby vet's went completely insane trying to bite people, and when they classified it as infected and found out where it came from, that's when they knew this building needs to be put in quarantine. And yes, before you ask, I did consider covering the Jennifer Carpenter remake of this, called Quarantine, but I've heard that it's basically a shot-for-shot remake, just everything is done worse. So I didn't really see the point in covering that one too, other than the obvious Jennifer Carpenter connection to my recaps of Dexter. But anyway, as you might have guessed, the infected dog is Jennifer's dog, Max. Hazmat approaches them calmly, so he can see if Jennifer's infected. The mum protests that she just has a cough, but I have the sneaky suspicion that's not true. One thing that I really appreciate about this movie is shown in scenes like this, where you get these long shots with no cutting away, where you've got to deal with a child actor who is more prone to making mistakes or not giving the ideal performance due to their inherent lack of experience. And the end result comes together really well like this. It deserves so much praise, and I apologise for having to add these cuts myself, but as you might have guessed, that's for fair use reasons. This mum's desperate cries out for Jennifer really gives this scene extra impact, and the chaos really grips you in. When they catch up to Jennifer, there's hesitation to shoot her, because, you know, she's a kid. But one look at her now evil looking face lets you know that this hesitation was a mistake. This whole building is now a complete shit show. Downstairs, they're trying to get the shutters up, but realise that the infected are on the other side of it. And yeah, try as they might, there's no time to save the grieving mother, who's still handcuffed to the railing. Hazmat locks himself in a room, saying that he's been bitten and is completely cooked. Then one of the residents stupidly stands too close and allows himself to get attacked by Hazmat. We're in complete carnage mode at this point. I really love this shot. This is a terrifying scenario to be in. With only Angela and cameraman Pablo left, they lock themselves in the only apartment left to explore, which is the mystery man's penthouse. When Pablo fixes the lights, we get this alarming sight of the whole apartment being used as some kind of lab, where science appears to be testing the validity of the supernatural. The tape recording confirming that these are possessions that have taken on the properties of a virus.
Ha ocurrido algo inesperado. La enzima no solo es muy resistente, sino que muta en distintas cepas. Se comporta de manera similar a la gripe.
A loft hatch swings open, and Pablo bravely or stupidly decides to go up and investigate. And we get this jump scare of a young possessed boy reaching out to grab him. But then we come to the pinnacle, creepiest moments in this film, where a very gaunt looking woman, who is presumably the same possessed girl that was on these newspaper cuttings, she's searching around for them in the darkness, and when they accidentally make a noise, she kills Pablo, leaving Angela all alone to try and survive. But as we all know, as I spoiled it earlier, she gets dragged away, and that's where the movie comes to an abrupt end.
Pablo, grábalo todo. Por tu puta madre.
So yeah, I think it's fair to say that's a very interesting movie, as we've ventured into an idea that I have never seen before in the zombie genre, where we now know that this zombie infection is actually an infectious possession. If you know of any other movie that did this before, please let me know. But for the meantime, I'm intrigued enough to see what the sequels do with this concept. I watched all of these movies on Amazon Prime and a free trial of Shudder, and annoyingly for these last 3 films there wasn't any option to turn off subtitles, so please excuse me adding this blur filter as I didn't want it distracting you guys from the very important words that I'm saying. But with that said, let's see what Rec 2's all about. This time the POV is coming mostly from the police body cams, who have come into the same building to carry on the investigation. And I like that we're continuing the story in this way. Arguably, the most focused on character here is the replacement hazmat guy called Dr. Owen, who's leading the officers up to the penthouse. His expertise on this kind of scenario makes him an ideal leader. It sounds like I read that from his LinkedIn profile. They begin collecting evidence, and when Dr. Owen discovers that the tape recorder is still warm, it lets us know that these new guys have entered the building within minutes of Angela being dragged away in the previous film, which again I really like. They pause on their search when they hear some commotion downstairs, where their dear colleague Martos gets attacked, and he quickly succumbs to the possession. And then surprisingly, Martos stops being so rabid and listens to Dr. Owen as he recites some holy passage. They lock Martos inside a room, and naturally they have some questions, like what the f*** is going on here?
Acabo de perder, o lo que sea, a uno de mis hombres. Así que será mejor que empiece a contarnos todo lo que sabe. Porque es evidente que sabe más que yo.
They now distrust him, but he's the only one here with the authority to make the authorities outside unlock the doors, so they need to work with him and figure out a plan. When they get back up to the penthouse, it's revealed that Dr. Owen isn't just a regular doctor, he's a doctor of God. I'm just trying to be clever here. He's a priest. He fills them into the backstory of the possessed girl, saying that she was taken here so she could be tested on in private. He says before they're allowed to leave, they have to get a sample of blood from the original possessed girl, as this would enable them to create the antidote. Mysteriously, the penthouse appears to be empty, even though it reeks of fresh car and corpses. But they forgot to look up. Yeah, classic possession stuff in full swing now. When they hear footsteps above the ceiling, they open fire and make it collapse. But the only thing that falls down is the dead priest, who transported the possessed girl here. But then the possessed boy jumps back into action. Rather shockingly, but quite reasonably, they shotgun this boy in the head, and they share some looks of solemn disbelief at what they just had to do. Crawling around in the vents, they find a little freezer containing vials of blood, including one from the OG possessed girl. Seems like a very inconvenient place to keep this freezer, but on the flip side, it's a place of convenience to set up this very expected scare. Wait, how many kids did he test here? This is very upsetting. Dr. Owen confirms that the blood is legit when it freaks out hearing the holy words, but unfortunately the same happens to the rest of the test tube. With no options left here, they go to explore the rest of the building, and as they push some guy down the stairs, they see a bunch of kids have got in somehow, filming with their own camera. Wait, is he not aware of their body cams? The disturbance has alerted the rest of the possessed to move in on the attack, and we return to some delightful carnage, where the team end up getting separated. I love the low resolution of this sequence from the body cam attached to Officer Lara, as we watch him try to make his way out, but ends up getting trapped in the bathroom. And he knows he's completely cooked, and we get this truly harrowing shot where he's crying in the mirror before taking himself out. Honestly, that whole sequence was the most raw and gripping part of this movie, and to be honest, I would have loved it if the whole movie was shot in this way. Imagine how cool that would have been. Dr. Owen says, okay, even though the vial of blood is gone, maybe we can still find the OG demon girl. If we do, we'll pin her down and extract her goop for the antidote. They know it's a mission that will likely get them killed, but they all feel the weight of responsibility here. If they don't succeed, the whole world is going to fall. When they capture a young girl, and Dr. Owen calms it with the holy speech, the demon starts talking back. Which, yeah, I know, that's standard possession stuff, but it's still exciting to watch.
¿Dónde estás? Nunca te cansas, padre. Es Dios que me protege.
We then cut to the kids with their camera, and we're winding back a bit to the time before they got in the building. After messing around with a blow-up doll and some fireworks, they're ordered to get down from the roof by the police. They're not in trouble for the fireworks, as the police have bigger concerns right now. Feeling rebellious and curious as to what's going on, they use the sewers to sneak into the quarantined building. They almost immediately get caught and ordered to leave, warning them of the deadly infection, which for some reason isn't convincing this kid, so he gets a stronger warning. But when they go to leave, they find the basement hatch has been welded shut, as the authorities saw them using this secret way in.
Tiene que haber otra salida.
¿Otra salida? ¿Tienen órdenes de disparar? ¡Lo he oído por radio!
There's quite a funny death scene, where this zombie lady gets a firework jammed in her mouth, and it sends her tumbling down the hall. And the following moment is cool too, where the young girl is pleading with the officer to make an appeal to the authorities outside about her just being a kid. As the officer stands next to the window, the snipers open fire, which surely isn't a good idea if they're trying to keep all the windows and doors sealed, but never mind, that's a small nitpick. Continuing with the girl's vulnerability, she's expected to fire a gun for the first time to save this man's life, but she's so shaken up that she kills him by mistake. Then when she does kill the zombie, all the kids are in absolute bits. A fantastic showcase of their acting, I feel. Then we get the very surprising return of Angela, who's in shock but physically appears to be okay. She tells them what happened to her in the penthouse, saying that the OG zombie lady is still alive somewhere in the building. Knowing these zombie demons are spiritually connected, Dr. Owen uses some more holy magic to get one to fess up on the OG's location.
¿Dónde estás? Te he dicho en lo más alto. ¿No será que tienes miedo, cura?
They figure out that they need to get back to the stinky hallway and turn on the night vision to reveal a secret door, something to do with outcast demons being trapped in the shadow realm. They play into this idea when they find this large bathtub with a demon lurking in the waters, but the tub disappears when the lights come on. When they again turn off the lights, OG Demon Lady appears with a hammer. She wanders around in the dark, trying to find these meddling kids, and she gets uncomfortably close to the camera. Then Dr. Owen's radio goes off, giving away their position. Angela is left with no choice but to take her out with a shotty, much to the alarm of Dr. Owen.
¡Necesitaba esta sangre!
We then get quite the surprising twist when Angela shotguns the two remaining men and laughs in a demonic way at the priest's failure to expel the actual head demon, which is now Angela.
Pero sabes una cosa.
Que no te necesito.
She kills him and mimics his voice to order them to open the doors, saying that there's only one lady who survived, and Dr. Owens has to stay here, as he's infected. Then the movie ends in a really cool way, where we see what happened to Angela right after getting dragged away, where the OG demon transfers itself into her mouth in the form of this grotesque worm thing. I don't even know if I can show that. As sequels go, Rec 2 was very fun. Some people might find the talking demons a bit goofy, which maybe makes the film feel a bit schlocky, but in my personal opinion that's not the case. If you were invested by the first Rec, this one's definitely worth watching. Now here's where things get a little questionable, because less than halfway through Rec 3 Genesis, they completely abandoned the found footage presentation of film, which was, as the title Rec suggests, a huge part of this series' identity. But let's not throw a toddler tantrum just yet, we'll give this movie a chance. Starting on a positive, I really enjoyed this style of opening, using a DVD menu for the couple's wedding video. Immediately it lets us know what kind of wacky scenario we're getting for the next location of the possession outbreak. It's going to be nice to get out of the building, a nice change of scenery. We know that the Angela demon has escaped, and right now is out in the world causing chaos. But for this bride and groom, Clara and Coldo, the world is new and exciting, ready to live out the rest of their days in blissful harmony. So yeah, for a short while, we can pretend that's how it's going to be. As cameraman goes around filming the wedding guests, he comes across the official videographer, who's got a way bigger and better camera than his puny, pathetic little handheld. Official cameraman Atun needs both hands to handle his monster camera.
Oh my!
We get an early sign of who's going to turn first, with Uncle's hand being bandaged up. He's a vet, you see, and he just got bit by a crazy dog named Max. No worries, he says, this won't ruin anyone's wedding, especially not this one. The lovely couple get married with 0 incidents and are serenaded by their close friends.
No puedo estar sin ti, no hay manera.
I'm skipping over many conversations here, and these many conversations do a great job at giving you the general vibes of who these people are. They seem like a nice bunch, and honestly, I have zero complaints about any of these characters. Just like the previous films, they feel very much like real people. Even this Timu SpongeBob guy, who's here to look silly and smoke cigarettes, and also keep the kids amused.
No, bueno, a ver, es que hubo un tema con los derechos y ahora el disfraz es de John Esponja.
As the celebrations go on, Uncle seems to be becoming a little out of sorts, and when the evening dance commences, he sits atop the balcony and falls down like a sack of spuds. When they come to his aid, he begins munching. As standard, chaos ensues, and it's all good fun. Koldo gets frustrated that Atun is still filming, breaking his camera so we can finally watch this movie in the good old-fashioned proper way, the very unspecial way. As well as now being in standard filming format, we're now in standard zombie film territory. And I wouldn't say it's boring or even poorly executed. It's just kind of bleh. Here comes that word again, unspecial. The main driving force of this story is Koldo trying to find Clara. With his group, he takes shelter in a church, where demons aren't allowed in.
¡Apóstatas! ¡Hijos de puta!
Clara's hanging out with the priest, which unbeknownst to her is the smartest move. This goofy clip I showed you earlier is from Koldo taking some armour from the church and taking the charge to rescue Clara. I really can't tell what they're going for here. Is it supposed to be funny? Are we supposed to think this is cool? Either way, it's just kind of wacky. No, I'm going to be harsher on it. It's f***ing goofy. I'm not going to waste too much time talking about their journey escaping the venue, because really it's not that interesting. But there are some moments like this, which give us some nice lore building. Here we see that the demons look like the OG demon when viewed in a mirror, telling us that the true form can't be seen in direct light, or something like that. We just can't see them through the naked eye. While Koldo and Clara are searching for each other, it's kind of frustrating how often they miss crossing paths. But to be fair, it is a big venue, and it provides a good excuse to keep the movie going. She almost gives up on finding him, but then he puts her favourite song on full blast, and her hope in finding him is reignited. To begin this epic rescue, she starts up a chainsaw and makes her dress more revealing and badass. It could also be for practical reasons, as I can't imagine it's easy to fight zombies while wearing a big ass wedding dress. We then get some very juicy zombie kills where she gets completely covered in blood, which only adds to the badass look. When they finally reunite, it's a nice moment, as these two do feel like a genuine couple, and I find myself rooting for them to make it. The zombie demons close in, and Koldo and Clara look at each other, fearing that this is the end. But then the zombie demons stop in their tracks, transfixed by the sound coming from the intercom, as the priest is reading some Bible passage.
Y a las tinieblas llamó noche.
As they make their way out, she gets attacked by a demon wearing a hearing aid, which is a clever way to reincorporate the Grandad character, who we saw earlier was having trouble with his hearing aid. I just forgot to show you. They quickly decide to cut off her arm to stop the infection spreading. It's pretty brutal. Ultimately, this was a wasted effort, as right as they get to the gate, the infection takes hold. She hangs on just long enough for them to walk out together in the way that they dreamed of for their big day, sharing a lovely kiss at the end. They get gunned down, and in their final moments they link hands to end the movie and their lives. So yeah, this movie was kind of a strange departure, and I'm not sure it feels worthy of the REC title. It hasn't really earned it, considering that over half the movie wasn't in the spirit of the original REC. It was still enjoyable, but there were many occasions where it felt like it was taking the zombie demon premise and making it too much of a wacky fun time, completely killing your immersion, which, going back to what I said at the start, is why these REC films were so special. So before we move on to the fourth and final film, let's give an overview of events so far. In REC 1, we find out there's a possession outbreak. In REC 2, we see the head demon escape quarantine. And in REC 3, we see the possession spreading to many people. Which, now that I think about it, kind of makes REC 2 meaningless. Even if she didn't escape, the vet who got bit still went to the wedding. Anyway, let's see what kind of conclusion we're going to get with REC 4 Apocalypse. Another team have entered Ground Zero with the mission to evacuate Angela. So timeline wise, we're going back to the end of REC 2. This sets up an interesting position for us. Do we now consider Angela the antagonist, as her body's being controlled by the demon slug, or do we consider her the protagonist, as it now appears that she's back to her original self, unaware of what's inside her? Let's see how the story handles this dilemma. Angela is now on a ship, and so I'm finally covering the movie about zombies at sea. I hope you feel it was worth the wait. They're testing her blood, but she's not in the mood to be tested on. So with the help of the hapless doctor who loosened her straps, she makes a break for freedom. Not sure where she hopes to run to, unless she's up for a very long swim. There's other patients on this ship too, and they seem none the wiser on their reason for being here. So this guy is sympathetic to Angela's calls. He's one of the guys who rescued Angela. The head doctor comes out and says, chill, don't get your knickers in a twist, we can all relax.
We can all live together.
As Angela's blood came back negative for demon DNA. Due to the complications of these tests and the unpredictable nature of the demon virus, doing this out at sea is the safest way to prevent further outbreak on the mainland. The captain of this boat explains that he's being paid a lot of money for the scientists to use his vessel, and also to not ask any questions about what they're doing in their lab. A deal which works for him, as he explains that this money will help him to finally retire, which probably means he's going to die by the end. Another character to mention is Nick, the radio communications guy, who's currently creeping on Angela while she changes. He's been a bit bored lately, as the scientists have taken control of every incoming or outgoing message. So with his spare time, he's been given the fun task of recovering the camera footage from the camera that was found near Angela. So that's going to be a fun surprise later. Right now, she's laying down in bed and can feel something jiggling around inside her, but she's not sure if it's just her going crazy. Deep in the secret lab, they discover their test monkey has gone missing, and it turns up in the kitchen to wrestle with the chef. The chef manages to sear it in a pan, and this is where the inspiration for the Pokemon Pansear comes from. Don't fact check me on that, you can just assume I'm right and move on. I really like this particular transformation, where the chef, who's now a demon, is still wearing his headphones, and is experiencing sensory overload, and can't process that there's someone talking to him who he could be munching on.
Tienes el comedor a tope y los ánimos están calentando, así que será mejor que espabiles. Ya me has oído.
A close call, but not nearly as close as the next guy to go check on him. The doctor reveals they've been working on an anti-demon serum, so they need to try and paralyse the chef and give him a dose. But it seems to have the opposite effect, making him stronger and angrier.
Se está retroalimentando. Mierda. No puede ser. Es evidente que sí puede ser.
It turns out this guy, who was the fellow soldier / policeman whatever, who helped rescue Angela, was secretly ordered to bring back an infected blood sample so they can run their tests. So it's kind of his fault this is all going down.
Me dijeron que tenía que hacer lo que era por el bien de todos. Esta sangre infectada.
I'll give this movie credit for tackling the story in a more serious way again. No more silliness that dragged down the previous one. And I give credit to the scarier moments, like these distant running footsteps before the big scare. One thing that I will criticise though, and this goes for most of these Wreck films, is the lazy sound design for a good chunk of the demon zombie sounds. They often just use bear noises, or some kind of pig squealing, and probably some other animals too. They could have at least added some pitch shift or some kind of funky distortion to make it more original and less detectable as being an existing animal. This might just be a personal bugbear, as someone who studied and worked on sound design. I was a sound designer for a dinosaur game that unfortunately never got released. But as the game dev doesn't need these sounds anymore, I'm uploading them to my free sound account, so people can make use of them if they wish. But yeah, enough about my noble contributions to the creative world. Let's get back to it. The lab geeks are now in crisis mode, considering a self-destruct for the boat, as their anti-demon serum is a dud. But then this one guy says wait, we've just received the video files from Nick, and we can see that the prime specimen we need was thrown up into Angela's body. They hold her up at gunpoint, demanding that she agrees to some emergency surgery. The hero guy and the captain try to defend her the best they can, but then reason prevails, and they see that getting this thing out of her is for the greater good.
How can this be for the greater good? Shut it!
While pinning her down, a demon zombie enters the room, allowing Angela to break free, and so the search is on to find her before they all become infected. Bear in mind at this point, she's still very much in denial, and can't recall much of what happened to her. So her natural reaction is to run, rather than believe them about her demon slug baby. Nick, believing in her calls, and thinking she's kinda cute, helps her by keeping watch on the cameras, and guiding her over the walkies. Angela captures the doctor, and infects him with her blood, saying he can run his tests on himself instead. Down in the lab, his blood comes back negative for infection, which reveals that she's no longer the host for the demon slug. And they work out that the first person she came into contact with was the guy who rescued her, and he is the new host.
Estuvimos solos casi un minuto. Abandona a su huésped cuando encuentra otro mejor. ¿No era así?
The doctor sneaks away and initiates the emergency self-destruct timer. Demon host then backs Angela into falling down his hatch, but she's okay and makes it out alive, after running away from some more pansiers. While trying to boot up the backup engine, the other soldier guy gets eaten, leaving only Nick, Angela, and the doctor alive. Oh, and also the head demon, if he counts. Nick knocks out the doctor for daring to suggest they leave his queen behind, and Demon knocks Nick out for daring to suggest they try and escape. The demon slug tries to take her body back, so that Nick will unknowingly rescue it, but he wakes up just in time to launch a harpoon through the host's neck. With every demon nipping at their heels, they jump into a life raft, with only a minute to spare before the ship goes. Now you might think that the day is saved, but the slug is still alive, and then a big fish comes along and eats it. So is it now food, or has the demon slug found its new host? Aside from a pointless mid-credits scene, showing them in the car safe and sound, this is the end of the Wreck series, so we'll never know for sure if the demon is truly dead. As far as recommendations go, I think the evidence I've shown you speaks for itself. I can imagine that you'd be tempted to check out Wreck 1 and 2, but instead of putting yourself through the third and fourth film, you'd instead use this video as a way to not waste your time. It's my service to you that I take much pride and joy in, and these people on screen are helping me keep this dream alive. And you are too by watching my yapping sessions. I thank you all for being here. Even though half of these Wreck films were kinda tedious to sit through and also to script and talk about them, but overall I have thoroughly enjoyed working on this project, and I very much want to reincorporate talking about horror films. So that's what I'm planning to do between my longer videos. If you're new here and want to check out that 28 days versus weeks video, it's on screen now.